evening, good afternoon, good morning. I always have to bring all three in because you never know where people are joining us from or if you're catching it on the replay, play versus live. So, welcome to everyone to another episode of Live Well Sister. It is your girl, Marcie Thomas of Brown Girl Collective, and I am happy to be here with you for another opportunity to talk about ways in which we can live well. And if you caught the very beginning of this broadcast and the introductory video, some of the things that are in the book we're going to talk about are a part of what Live Well really stands for and what it's all about. So if this is your first time here, please feel free to drop that in the comments and ask questions and do all those things along the way because we really want this to be an interactive experience. So tonight, I am especially pleased to bring someone that I've been following for a while, and she just has this really great career and way of speaking and way of teaching us that really resonated with me, and I'm sure it will resonate with you as well. And that guest is Rainie Howard, and we are here to get a preview of her book that will be out on September the 10th, which is called The Love Habit: Daily Self-Care Practices for a Happier Life and Healthier Relationships. So now she is a highly requested speaker, media personality, best-selling author, and business leader whose global platform has reached over 10 million people. She is an award-winning humanitarian and life coach, helping people transform their lives with a focus on spiritual and mental growth and healthy relationships. She has founded several privately held education and personal development companies, including her consulting firm, Rainie Howard Incorporated. She also hosts the Rainie Howard Show podcast and YouTube channel, empowering viewers and listeners through inspirational messages. She is the author of 8 books, including Addicted to Pain and You Are Enough, and of course, now The Love Habit. And she lives in St. Louis with her husband and 2 children. So without any further delay, let's bring this busy and beautiful woman to the stage, Ms. Rainie Howard.
Welcome. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, yes, it's indeed a pleasure. As I said, I've had an opportunity to read and to follow and see some of the wonderful things that you have been doing throughout your career, and it is an honor to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So before we get into the love habit, which is just the title in and of itself is like the love habit. What is a habit of love? And to tell you all right off the top, it's probably not what you think it's going to be. just so you know that off the top, everyone. But I'd love to know a little bit about Rainie. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you came to this space of doing all these wonderful things and helping us to live better lives.
Well, a little bit about me. Grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. At the time of my birth and just being raised, I was very interested in just people and paying attention of how people act and what people do. And one of the things I saw was just relationships. And at the time, as a young child, and my parents were young as well. My mom had me right after she graduated from high school. And so at the time, I just got to learn and see just the dynamics of relationships. And at that time, my mom and dad didn't have a healthy relationship. So I experienced some trauma, childhood trauma. And really, that childhood trauma was really shaping me for my adult life. I of course, you don't understand these things and how the brain works and how we're programmed at such an early age. Mm-hmm. But just the dynamics of the relationships that were around me were not only shaping my adult life, but they were actually shaping the way that I became or the way that I interacted in relationships.
Right.
And so just after growing up and experiencing things, I started to learn just how I was struggling in relationships. I became a people pleaser, looking for approval from other people, wanting validation, having low self-esteem, getting in some of the wrong relationships, some of the wrong friendships, even befriending people who I thought were my best friend, but they were actually jealous of me and actually told
Mm,
me they were jealous of me.
mm,
And so I just encountered so many relationship challenges to the point to where I knew it was something in me that I was teaching people that I wasn't aware of.
right.
And after so many years of just research and studying and growing and even just working on myself, I learned that we teach people how to treat us.
Yep.
And we do this by how we show up in the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
there are things I started to learn about, like personality and all of these things. It was really a journey and just a curiosity of wanting to be better.
Right.
And I always felt like it was things I just wanted to learn. I was just hungry for wisdom. And
Mm-hmm.
through my process of researching and learning about mental health and learning about how my personality impacts my relationships,
Right.
it led me to writing, and it led me to having a blog. And I started blogging. I went viral on Facebook in, like, I think it was 2012. I
Okay.
reached over 1 million people with a blog, a Facebook blog. And really, it showed me that it was so many other people that were hungry for the information. So
Mm-hmm.
it just took me down this journey of just, the more I grew in myself, the more that I learned about nurturing my mind, body, and spirit, the more I could share with other people. And so, yeah, so that's where we are today. And I've just, finished my 9th book, The Love Habit,
Yeah.
after so many years of writing and coaching and all of that. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about who I am,
Well,
what
I
led
love
me here.
right, because it's what brought you to the place that you are now, all those experiences. And you're right, we don't always understand when things are happening around us, the ways in which they shape us. And it's
Yes,
one of those things that either you repeat what you've seen or you say, hey, that didn't work, that wasn't cool. I want to do something completely different. But what I like
yes.
is reading The Love Habit, it's like you took those things and you really, decided to do the inner work. And that's something that sometimes people don't do.
Right, right. Because I'm one of those people, when I learn something, or something, I discover something that helps me,
Hmm.
I get excited about sharing it with
Yes.
others. And so the more I would just share, the more I felt that accountability to hold myself accountable and really do the work and heal,
Hmm.
and really just not only just speak about it and write about it, but be it and
Hmm.
live it out. And that really led me to the process of writing the book and coming up with The Love Habit. It was a journey of just learning how to heal. I
Hmm.
have to say.
Yes, and it is indeed a journey, and it has ups and downs, and peaks and valleys, and sometimes you feel like you're going in a roundabout, and all those sorts of things. Just really trying to figure things out about yourself, and it's definitely not easy work.
Not at all. And it it was something, because of a part of my process of writing. I um i wrote one of my books I wrote years ago. It's called You Are Enough.
Hmm.
And it really took a lot out of me, as far as, like, really just talking about, I think that was the first one when I really just let go and talked about just healing.
Right.
And it led me, and like you said, it's not easy, because it really led me down a path of really doing the work and really, like, dealing with the hurt, the pain, the childhood trauma, and just feeling like all of these things just came up, and I really needed to work on healing myself, and therapy and all of those things. And sometimes we don't know that we're walking around with all of these emotional baggage, barriers, and
Yes.
we're not always aware, because we begin to suppress it, and it becomes the norm for many people, and they're not aware that they have some things that they need to release and heal. And so I think that's where I was at that place, and it was just like, okay, I got to do something. I got to take this path. I don't know where it's leading me. I don't know where it's going, but I know that I'm being called to release some things and go to a new level in my life.
So the love habit, we're going to get into some of the concepts, but just the love habit in and of itself. What is the love habit?
So the love habit is a technique. It's I say a daily self-care practice that when you do this practice, it's a holistic practice, mind, body, and spirit, you can regulate your nervous systems. You can begin to heal yourself, because we're not always aware that mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, we need attention. We need to invest in our minds, in our bodies, in our emotions. And sometimes we just go throughout life. We get up, we work, we take care of people, families, children, spouses, do our duties. And then at the end of the day, we're depleted, we're stressed, we're drained, and we're like an empty cup that just keeps pouring, but pouring emptiness. And so the love habit is all about filling yourself, filling your cup, and overflowing so that you're not neglected and you're not depleted. And really, and it goes into your relationships, because a lot of times, and a lot of the clients that I've worked with over the years when it comes to relationships, they look to relationships to be the substance to fill them. When really relationship come on, yes.
Yeah,
relationships. Yeah, we do. And I was in that place, and relationships aren't going to do that. You have to do that. And really what the relationship is a complement of your wholeness. And once you're full and filled, you know how to have great relationships, great healthy relationships. And so when you're depleted, when you feel like you're lacking and you're empty, you'll settle in your relationship. You will, be attracted and connected to relationships that aren't fulfilling,
right,
and aren't healthy.
Right.
And one of the things that I've learned is just, instead of looking, because I'm getting ready to celebrate 21 years of marriage next month.
Yes.
Thank you. And just being a married woman and knowing how, marriage is not an easy relationship. I think it's one of the most, I would say marriage will stretch you more than any other relationship, because you really share so much. And one of the things that I've learned is that when I'm upset, or if the relationship is we're disagreeing or whatever, to not look so much to my spouse to be the answer, and to, you need to do this, you need to do that, but really to go within myself and to say, what is going on with me? What am I needing? What am I lacking? What can I do? And what can I do differently? Because a lot of the relationships, and some people are in toxic relationships, and they get so caught up in just being in these unhealthy relationships, and it's a pattern, right, and they don't understand how to break the pattern and to say, wait a minute, I need to stop, because I am being a people pleaser in this relationship. I'm allowing this person to diminish me to the point to where I feel weak. I'm really confident. The true authentic person that I am is a confident person. But in this relationship, I feel weak. And so just being able to identify what is happening in the relationship is key.
Yes, I love that. And to be clear, when you read the book, because I'm sure you all are going to pre-order so you can get it on September the 10th and we get a chance
Yes,
to really dive in, and, and answer the questions, do the exercise and all that. But be clear, Rainie is not just talking about romantic relationships, because oftentimes what happens in one type of relationship happens in others. So it could be a relationship with a family member, it could be a friend or frenemy, it could be the
yes.
relationship add to your job. It can show up in a whole bunch of different ways, and you do talk about those things in the book.
And that's, I'm glad you said that because that's what I love about this book. Out of all the books that I've written, I've really been able to tap into various relationships and the toxic workplace, the boss, the relationship with the family member and how to interact and how to engage in a healthy way and how to have healthy boundaries in those different types of relationships.
Yes, and you do a good job of that, because I'm like, yes. And the other thing, as I was
Thank
reading
you.
some of the things you say, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been saying that for years. So Rainie said it, so I must be right. Rainie agrees with me. But you start out, the book is broken down into 3 sections. The first section is talking about reinventing yourself, basically the life that you want. And what I found very interesting, and I told you earlier, I had shared some things with my mom, but how many people are walking around living a life that's not the life that they really want?
Yes. Because so what happens is it's like we tune out. We get on this autopilot way of living where we're just going with the flow and our life is just every day is just repeating on this same dynamic and we're just going with the flow. And what happens is we don't stop to say, what is it that I really desire? Let me slow down. Let
Mhm.
me really assess my life and what it is that I desire in my life versus just going and going and going and not paying attention to what it is they desire, or just settling, like I said, in relationships because you're already in this desperate place. You're not full, you're not filled up, and you haven't really done the mental work, the emotional work, or the spiritual work because you're too busy and you're doing so much for everyone else. But it's
Mhm.
like who's gonna pour into you?
Right, right.
You
And you
know?
give like you talk about a person or people who are nice, and we're stuck in this thing of always being nice. And I feel like it's a woman thing. I mean, not to say that other people aren't taught to be nice, but I feel like especially as a woman or a young girl, you're taught you need to be nice. You need to be
Yes.
supportive, you need to be all these things. And sometimes being quote unquote nice doesn't always work to your advantage in the long run.
No. A lot of times people expect that because they're nice, other people will be nice to them. Or they think like, oh, I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to be very pleasant, very nice. Let's say it's a job, a working relationship. I'm going to say yes to whatever they ask me to do. I'm going to do that. And to the point to where you're exhausted and
Mm,
you said yes too much because you're trying so hard to be nice, but being nice is stressing you out and it's depleting you and you feel like you're losing yourself. You have a whole different identity because of this niceness that's really not real. It's not who you are. So being nice doesn't serve you or the other person, but really showing up in your truth. And I say be kind. Focus on being kind instead of being nice because you can be kind and still be assertive and direct at the same time versus, oh, I got to be nice. So I can't really say that I really can't say no to this because then they'll be mad at me.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's important that we're aware of that, how the niceness can get in the way of really entering into unhealthy relationships.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because when that person is used to you always doing, always serving, always bailing them out, and you do have some like different personality types. It might be 8 or 9 or 10, where people who are just all different in different ways that people are always trying to be in service to others without being considerate of themselves. And then once you get to a point where you say, well, hey, maybe I'm not going to do that way anymore, then people take offense, and because you don't want to damage the relationship or think that you're going to damage the relationship, you continue in this behavior that really doesn't serve you.
Yes. And it's not who you are. It's you becoming another person just to please that person or to keep up that false identity of just being the person that's nice and being the person that's saying yes all the time. And it's not who you really are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, of course, if you've
Mhm.
been doing this for a while and you realize, hey, this isn't really working for me anymore, you give some tips and things on how we can start to adjust our habits if we are
Yes.
that type of person. So, what are some of the things that maybe we can look at if we're saying, hey, I don't necessarily want to do it this way anymore? I want to shift some things so that my relationships may be a little bit better with others.
Yeah, so you want to first of all, you want to have a vision of who are you in this relationship? Who
Mm,
do you want to be? See, it starts with seeing yourself as the person you desire to be. Because, if you don't have a vision of what that looks like, it's still going to come across like either you're super nice or you're just mean. Some people have no in between. And so it's
right,
like, well, I can't be nice anymore. I'm not going to be nice. And then they become this angry person. So
right.
really, what is that vision? What does it look like? Does it look like a person who is confident, who is kind, who knows what they want and sure about what they want, so they're willing to have a conversation and say, in the beginning of this relationship, I was really focused on, being nice and serving. And not that I don't want to be nice. I want to continue to be kind to you, but I have to start creating healthier boundaries because I'm exhausted. I feel depleted. And really having the hard conversation, but allowing yourself to do it from a place of confidence and strength and having the vision of what that looks like. And yeah, that's something that I walk you through in the book because it's not easy, especially having different personalities. And
Right.
I really go into detail on different personalities that you may have that people actually reward these personalities and they
Mm,
say, wow, this person is amazing. But a lot of those personalities that I talk about can be harmful to you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. It can be exhausting
mhm.
to have those personalities and how they really impact your relationships and how you teach people how to treat you. So
Yes.
as you're continuing to do this, you're telling people, yes, keep coming to me, whatever you need, I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to ever say no. And even if I'm tired, exhausted. And so then you feel used,
Mhm.
and so just knowing how to have those boundaries is very important, and a lot of us women, we pride ourselves in being strong,
Right,
until you get to a point where being strong no longer serves you,
right.
and you need some time, you need a break, you
Mhm.
need to rest, you need to cry, being able to not always be strong, and it's okay
It's okay.
to
It's
not
okay.
always be strong.
And we'll get into it a little more here in a minute, but the reciprocity of the relationships that we have, because is it you that's always being nice and kind and giving and doing all the things, and maybe you're not getting that back? So that's a factor as well. But I wanted to share a comment we have from Karen. We sometimes we change ourselves because we put ourselves around people who don't appreciate the nice kind person you are, and it makes a true nice persons feel that they need to change who they are.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, a lot of times we do that. We get around other people and we start filling them out, filling out the energy. What do they want from me? What do they need? What can I be? And if you are a person who empathizes with people, or an empath, and you just absorb energy and emotions, and you sympathize with people and you want to serve. Listen, I understand, because I I struggle with the same thing, and I write about that in the book, because when you do this, you got to learn the healthy boundaries and how to protect yourself, how to protect your emotions and your mindset, because you can begin to fall into this trap where you lose yourself because you're trying to blend in to help and fix other people, and you take on their energies and their emotions, and you try to fill them out. Well, who do I need to be for this relationship? When just really the reason why the love habit is so important is because you practicing this daily self-care technique, that you working on yourself, is going to help you to be more stable in who you are, to where you don't have to blend in or
Right.
try to fill out other people. Because a lot of times, people who struggle with this, who are empaths, is really something, it's a form of safety. I need to protect myself, so I got to fill out what this person is feeling and thinking, so that I make sure that I'm okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And when you become so conditioned to toxic relationships, even childhood, being around toxic relationships, you become more empathetic. You become more of an empath, because you are aware of the emotions, and this is a way to protect yourself, to see what's coming, or someone's going to yell, someone's going to scream, there's going to be issues going on, you know. And so just knowing this and being able to have healthy boundaries that you put around yourself emotionally and mentally, you can protect yourself from losing yourself in another person.
Right. And as you were saying all that, another thing that came into my mind, because I know people like that, we talked about that a little bit before we came on. And I think it's that need to be needed.
Yes. Oh my, oh, that's a big one. Just the person that wants to be relied on, because
Mm-hmm.
that is their sense of, yeah, you need me. I need to be needed, because for some reason they don't feel needed without other people relying on them. And so they take on so much,
Mm-hmm.
to the point of exhaustion.
Right. And then oftentimes when they need somebody, the same people that they're always giving to aren't there for them when they have a
Yes.
need, which is that whole thing of reciprocity. So
Right, right. And that's the thing, because people who need to be needed, they attract people who need to take, you know, because takers takers love needers, and and they like, okay, well, you want to give, you want to be relied on, you want to serve, I need this, I need that. And so they find themselves in this relationship that is so addictive, because they're meeting each other needs without knowing it, even though it can be a toxic situation. Is And it won't end until someone stops and breaks the
right,
pattern and say, wait a minute, this is exhausting.
right.
But it takes you getting to a place, because really this type of relationship is a pattern, and you really get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it can deregulate your nervous system, and cause depression and stress and all these other things, and you're not even aware of, because you're just going through the pattern, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Well, one of the things you talk about pattern, these daily self-care practices that are part of the love habit can become a new pattern or a new way of doing
Yes,
things to help you move beyond some of the habits that might not be as positive in terms of how you relate to yourself, really, because it's how we relate to
exactly.
ourselves, and then how that shows up in the world. So you talk about, mind, body, and spirit, and you in the book share that you have like a daily ritual in terms of a ritual. So what does your daily ritual look like, and what do you encourage us to do as we're learning how to build better habits or a love habit?
Yeah, so really what led me down this path several years ago, I think probably it's been about 7 or 8 years ago, I began to find myself just going through some depression, anxiety, panic attacks. When I talk about my nervous system being deregulated, yes, it was really, really bad. And it was to the point to where physically I began to change. I put on a lot of weight. I didn't understand what was going on with my body, and just so much was going on mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I began to seek out just help, just, mental health, emotional health, physical health, all of that. And because before all of this stuff was going on, work was like at the top of my list. And it was just like work, 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 work. And to the point to where I wasn't working on me. I wasn't working out. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't doing anything healthy to focus on me. It was just all about the goals. I got this goal. I'm trying to accomplish this. I'm doing that. And I had to stop and prioritize myself.
Right.
And when I learned how to do this, and it was really a spiritual journey that I found myself on, where I would just every morning, well, actually, I started researching just natural ways of healing when it comes to like depression without medicine. And some people need medicine, and I'm not against that. Right. But I really was at a place where it's like, I know it's something that I can do for me. So when I began to research it, I started to apply these techniques from experts. And meditation, walking in the park, nature, I discovered how much I love nature and how much it made me happy. I didn't know that before that point. I didn't realize how therapeutic it was just to take a walk in the park or to walk outside. Mm-hmm. And just different things that I would do every morning. I would put myself first and prioritize myself, my mind, body, and my spirit. I did something every morning for my mind, my body, and my spirit. And learning these techniques and learning what worked for me, because we are all different. And some people love, audiobooks. Some people love to read regular hard copy books. Some people love meditation. Some people, they just want to pray and, all of those things. So learning what works for you. And that's what I really love about the book, The Love Habit, because it allows you to discover what works for you. Mm-hmm. And your love habit, and just utilizing the techniques and the acronym that we have. And so, so my morning routine has changed through the years, but it continues to be the same foundation, mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
But what that technique looks like, it often changes. Sometimes I can go a season. I want to say the beginning of this year, where journaling was I would write 4 pages every morning, journaling, just writing, because it was just clearing out and therapy for me. So now I've been doing more meditation. I haven't journaled as much, right? But I do more meditation right now in this season. Like today, I had 2 sessions and I meditated today, moving my body, walking, exercising, all of that is so important. And just when it comes to my mindset, I love to learn. I'm constantly learning, constantly reading, constantly researching, and it brings me joy. So mind, body, and spirit, investing in that and finding those ways of doing that is so important.
And I love the fact that you say it looks different for every person. So it can change depending on where you are in your life at that time. So yeah, it might
Yes,
be yoga, or it might be putting on a song to dance, or it might be walking,
yes,
or riding a bike, or it might be journaling or praying or meditation, just whatever it is, something that helps to feed you. And I love the fact that you talk about you begin your day with that. So it's like you're setting your
yes.
intention for the day by doing these things at the start of the day. So what that means,
Mhm.
family, y'all who are watching this, is that you have to set that intention to say that this is so important that I need to make space for it. So it might mean you got to get up a
Yes.
little bit earlier, or not hit the snooze button, which I'm guilty of that. Not hit the snooze button 3 times, and then you get up, and then now you're in a rush because you
Right.
got up at the very
And
last minute. Now you got to get ready for work or whatever. So, oh yeah.
yeah, and it's not easy to start these habits. If you're not used to investing in your mind, body, and spirit, it's going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I help with, because making it a habit, you know, is tough. So many people have New Year's resolutions and then they break them by the second week of the year. They don't stick to it. So it's not easy to be consistent. So learning how to make your habits a part of your life and your identity is really what's important, and what is the book is about and helping with.
Right. Well, we have another comment here. Sometimes you could unconsciously have unhealthy boundaries with others and don't even realize it. I can't wait to read The Love Habit. This book will be a detox for my mind, body, and spirit. It actually absolutely will be. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I love that.
Yes,
And
because
that's true. You can what did she said, you can
unconsciously
unconsciously.
have unhealthy boundaries.
That
Hmm.
is so true. Just not being aware of your habits, and like she said, subconsciously you're just going throughout life. You're in this pattern and you're not even aware
Hmm.
of what is leading you to. And
Hmm.
so that's why asking those repeatedness. I don't want this result or this outcome. So why am I getting it?
Right.
What is it that I can do differently?
Right, right. And not always depending on the other person to be the one. Because even with boundaries, you set those boundaries for yourself. It's not like you better not da 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 anymore. It's like you have to say, okay, like I use the example for work. If you know that you have a hard stop at 6, stop answering emails and things at 8 and 9 o'clock at night, and then get upset because people aren't paying attention to your boundaries. Well, you're ignoring your
Yes,
boundaries. So if you
yes,
know, hey, after 6 o'clock, it's family time. If it's not life or death, you'll get a response in the morning. If you say that, then you need to stick to that. And that's just one example.
that's really good. And we don't always stick to our boundaries because we want people to be happy and we don't want them to be mad. We're thinking about other people, and we're really conditioned to focus more on others and neglect our own needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so just learning how to understand what's important for you. But one of the biggest things that I've learned in this season of my life is, even when you in those seasons where it's like, oh, I messed up, oh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, and you feel bad, learning to love yourself
Yeah.
through the process of your imperfections, loving yourself through your imperfections is healing. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times we're taught to just, oh, we need something different. We need to do this. We need to lose weight. We need more money. We need to do that. We need that. And really just learning that you are enough right where you are. And yes, it's okay to have goals and it's okay to work on yourself, but do it from a place of love and not from a place of beating up or punishing yourself. Like, oh, I was I messed up. I needed, and so that's one of the things that I've been working on, and I have been working on for a while, because I was one of those people where it was like, oh, when I didn't do what I wanted to do or should have done, then it's like I'm feeling bad, and I'm, okay, well, now I'm getting on my own self instead of just loving myself through it and saying it's okay to not be perfect. And, you're in this season, it makes me think about just even in fitness and health and all of those things, and how, it's all about, lose the 10 pounds or 15 pounds or whatever. But just being able to say, you know what, it's okay that you probably put on 10 pounds, 15 pounds or whatever. You can love yourself in that, and knowing that maybe that was that season for you to allow yourself to not be so caught up and strict.
Right.
And it's okay now to say, I want to make sure that I'm walking every day. I want to make sure I'm drinking my water. And I'm just going to do myself these favors. I'm going to do, implement a few new changes, but I'm going to love myself in this process.
Right.
I'm not going to hate every picture I take or hate looking, learning to love yourself, even in your imperfections, is very, very important.
It is.
And I think it's part of putting yourself first.
Right. And as you were saying that, I'm also in my mind thinking, extend the same grace to yourself that you would extend to others.
I love that. Because don't we do that all the time? We're so good at encouraging other people. Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, don't cry. Don't worry. You're going to get over this. And we don't know how to give ourselves that same grace. And it's so important, and it's so needed.
Good stuff. Well, wow. There's 2 other sections in the book. We're going to talk about them a little bit, because this has been so good. And thank you, everyone, who's watching and who has left comments. We do appreciate that. So in the first part, we talk about, how we're going to reinvent ourselves. And then in the second part, you talk about how we unlock our discernment. And I find that is really powerful, because we have it, but then we don't always use it. And how we can really begin to tap into that as well, as our intuition that plays in that as well. But, not always thinking about what somebody else would have said or how somebody else thinks that we should do things, but being able to discern certain situations for yourself and tap into your own mind. So definitely, please talk about that, because that is a key right there. That's a master key right there.
It is. And, we are so quick we're constantly faced with decisions to make each and every day. What to do? Where should I go? And we get caught up with distractions, and we want to, find out, like, ask for other people advice, or, if people not, giving us the advice, we're researching, what should I do? Where should I go? But learning how to get quiet and to just take your time, really put it out there, put your question out. Like for instance, if I had to do this recently, just with a business decision, because I was just like, I don't know what I should do with this situation. I feel like all of the, this pressure on me to make a decision. And I really just put the question out there, like, what should I do? I did some meditation. I just got quiet about it, and I just let it go. Because a lot of times you put too much force and too much effort into some of the discernment and intuition. It doesn't require a lot of the physical. It doesn't require a lot of the physical action and effort and, I got to figure this out. It's more about allowing, surrendering, letting go, and receiving, receiving. I heard a quote that said, prayer is you talking to God, and your intuition is God talking to you.
Yes.
And so when we begin to listen and get quiet, a lot of those answers we have for business, relationships, any decisions, those answers come in unexpected moments. Is when we're in a place of receiving where we let it go. We let go of the stress of it. We let go of just trying to figure out and the effort of trying to figure it out. And we really released it and just put it out there like, it's done. It's taken care of. I don't have to know the answer right now. When it's time for me to know, it's going to come to me. So it's really a practice of faith. And that's what I really go into in the book, is just really being on the receiving end, spiritually, emotionally, and allowing yourself to receive it. But you can't be in a place of stress. That's the thing. Learning how to really nurture yourself. You know, I had a friend who went through a situation where she lost her job and she was just in a really stressful place. And I really just encouraged her to just take a break, to just unwind, you know, go get a massage. Don't think about it. Don't, just relax. Just get yourself in a place of peace and calm, because not knowing the direction of your life and what to do and what decisions to make is not going to come when you're stressed. Right. You're not going to have that direction because it's not going to flow to you the way that you desire. You know, when discernment comes in and intuition comes in, it's more like it's like a gift, like oh wow, it's like a kid on Christmas morning, like, this is what, you know, it makes sense. And it's just so much confirmation. And you know, this is what I need to do. And something is just lining up. Things are lining up. And you know, without even seeing any physical evidence that this is what I need to do. And that is really a process, a spiritual process that is part of the love habit, because the more you nurture your mind, body, and spirit each and every day, the more you align yourself to receive the wisdom and discernment that's needed.
Yes, that's good. And you know what? And I skipped over a section, but it's all good because it all comes together. I just got so excited. I wanted to make sure that we, you know, at least touch into some of the other things.
No, you're fine.
Because there are like
no
some
problem.
Hey, the techniques, habit techniques about how and elevating your self-confidence and things like that, and how oftentimes we don't necessarily operate with self-confidence. And these, obviously, it's all in the same book, so it all ties together. But you have to have a level of confidence to even be able to pay attention to your intuition and be able to discern, because otherwise you will continually make decisions by committee instead of really figuring things out for yourself. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that oftentimes we do struggle. I mean, we in a general sense struggle with self-confidence.
Yeah, it is definitely a struggle. And really, I think it comes from the way, just how we're all conditioned just to, if you think about it, even, you know, going to school, it's like it was all about getting the right answer. And if you made a mistake and got the wrong answer, it impacted your confidence. Oh, I messed up. Oh, I'm not good at this or whatever. But confidence is really about being in a place in your life where you can continue to make mistakes, mess up, you know, do well, not always do well, and be consistent at moving forward. Right. And not being moved by the results, but just your effort. When you see a little baby who cannot walk and they're crawling, but then they try to stand up and they take a step and they fall and they get back up and then they fall again.
Mm-hmm.
That baby doesn't say, well, walking is not for me, I'm going to stop. No, the baby continues to
Right.
try with confidence and still fall, but keep trying until that child can walk. And so something happens when we become conditioned to fear taking steps forward because of failure. And
Mm-hmm.
then we lose confidence because we fail, when it's like failure has nothing to do with you. It's just learning material to say, okay, I need to do it differently this time.
Right.
Okay, I messed up on that, didn't make the right decision. Okay, but I learned something from that situation and now I know better. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I tell a lot of the women that I coach, because they talk about, I've had this bad relationship, I've been in that bad relationship, I've been divorced, I've been this. And that, and I have to remind them that has nothing to do with who you are and your value. A
Mm-hmm.
failed relationship is just that. Okay,
Just
so what did you learn from that relationship? And how can you move forward in confidence knowing that I have way more wisdom now than I did
right.
before that relationship,
Right.
and I can apply what I know now and have an even better relationship just because of who I am now. But a lot of times we look at the past and we allow the past to hold us back and to judge ourselves based off of the past and say, I'm not ready for what's next. And
Mm-hmm.
so building that confidence comes with continuing to move forward in your life, continuing to try new things, continuing to not be held back based off of your past results.
Mm-hmm.
And I just,
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. I didn't want to skip
yeah.
over that. That's really important that we do, and it takes confidence to do. There's pretty much not much of anything that you're going to do that doesn't require some level of confidence. you
Oh
know,
my goodness. Yes. Every single new, just new opportunity or adventure is definitely going to require it, because you feel like a beginner when you start something new,
right.
and that beginner feeling is like, oh, I'm new to this, but it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You,
Mm-hmm.
you can continue to just move forward in that.
Right. And sometimes that new thing is
So
developing these new habits so that you can have better
yes,
relationships.
yes, yes. It makes me think about when I first started the process. One of the habits I started with when I started the love habit practice was speaking affirmations in the morning. And when I first started, some of the affirmations made me feel so uncomfortable, just like, I don't believe this,
Right.
like, because I was at such a low place, and I would speak positive things, and it was so new for me to just speak and say these things. But it really taught me how much I I wasn't thinking positive, in
Mm,
the past. And so it was like, wow, I never knew that I wasn't as positive as I thought I was,
mhm.
But just speaking those affirmations, it was very different in the beginning, and it felt very uncomfortable because it was out of my comfort zone. I wasn't used to it. But the more I did it, the more it became me, and the more it felt like, yeah, this is who I am. and
Right.
and that's really one of those new habits that you can practice, and it really does take a commitment to begin to grow and believe in the positive affirmations you speak.
Hmm. And I would be remiss if in this section you do talk about mastering our emotions in romantic relationships. I would be remiss if it did not talk about that because, for all the single ladies out there and gents who might watch, that is something because it can be a challenge.
Mhm.
Mastering your
Yeah.
emotions in especially in romantic relationships because there are so many things that we live in a world where we're always getting stuff thrown at us about how we're supposed to act or how we're not supposed to act, or, what does it mean to be, a quote unquote nice or good woman in the context of a relationship, and, trying to determine what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So I really enjoyed reading that part of the book because I am a single lady. And something
Okay.
to think about, how sometimes if you are in that space, not just for singles, but you also categorize different types of romantic partnerships, that there's not just one.
Mm-hmm.
So please talk a little bit just about that section of the book, because, when we think of a love habit, yes, it's us, but at some point it does extend out to others.
Yeah. I want to touch on that, like the singles that are out there, because it's really a big deal when it comes to relationships and meeting people and dating people. A lot of times it's really challenging to have new relationships because people are looking at so many different things when it comes to dating and relationships, but they're missing like the main part of it. Mm-hmm. And the main part is the emotional connection. Everyone is looking at how tall are you? What do you do for a living? What's your credit score? Do you have a house? How many kids you have? And all of that stuff is fine. But I think the biggest part of romantic relationships that people are missing is learning how to have an emotional connection and learning how to be more aware of how a person makes you feel. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, do you feel safe with this person? Do you feel that you can really be yourself, which is a major key in having a healthy relationship and having a long-term healthy relationship. Because if you feel like you have to be someone else, or you feel uncomfortable in this relationship because this person, it's like maybe they look great on paper, and the vision with them looks amazing. They're tall, they have everything you want, but emotionally there's a disconnect. After being with this person or being married after so many years, I hear people say, me and my spouse don't sleep in the same bed, we're not together, and so you have to ask yourself, like, is that emotional connection there from the beginning? Because that's really the foundation, a major foundation of a healthy relationship. And can you just be their friend outside of just romance? Because romance is great. Romance is like the icing on the cake, but it doesn't make the cake. You got to have more than romance. It really should be some depth to, like, friendship. We can laugh together. We can talk all night and for hours and enjoy each other's presence. Like, the emotional side of the relationship is so important, and it's not being talked about as much as it should. And I don't think people understand how to develop the emotional connection, or even how to connect with a person emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Because once again, it's work, and it's not always easy. And yes, I like the fact that you include some of your story in the book as well. Just you and your spouse, and developing a friendship, and all of those things over time. And of course, everybody's story doesn't look that way, but it is. I've said major key before. It is a major key, being able to have some sort of emotional connection beyond just,
the physical. Because everybody lead with the physical. It's like the physical, and then the financial, and then all of that. Right, and it's like, that stuff is fine, but leading with it can be a distraction. Mm-hmm. Because it's a lot of, like, attractive people that's just not connecting, they may not connect with you, or and so I that's one of the things that's why a lot of people say, oh, it's terrible out here, I'm dating all these people, nobody's working. Well, because everyone isn't emotionally connected to you, and everyone isn't for you, and that's okay. everybody isn't supposed to be for it. We're all different. And so, but it is good to be aware of that part. And I think people aren't aware of it as much, and they're not building the emotional connection that's needed for the relationship.
And to understand that that takes time too. And I think that that's part of the
Yes.
challenge as well. It's like you see certain things that looks like it's this love at first sight, romantic, blah, blah, blah. And it takes time to build to that.
Yes, and people want it now. People want love at first sight. Let's get married tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's like it's like the microwave type relationship. I want it now. Fast food, I want it now. And it's just, it's not sustaining. It's not long term when you go the fast way.
And I like that you talk about the concept of love bombing. Some people may be familiar with that. Being mindful of the people who are coming at you too fast. Be like, wait a minute, hold up, what's going on?
Oh yes, yes, that is a big one too, because it feels so good in the beginning. Oh, they're buying me flowers, taking me here. We're going on this trip. We're doing all this amazing thing. Everything is happening so quick, and everything is just overwhelmed. And then they ghost you, or something happens. And you're like, what? Yeah.
So yeah,
and that's part of just taking your time, and you'll
being patient.
Yes.
Good. And last but not least, in that chapter, I like the fact that you define different types of relationship, because I think that sometimes people will say that a relationship has to be one particular way to be a quote unquote good relationship or a right type of relationship. You see my air quotes, but that people have to define what it means for them. And it doesn't always look the same. It doesn't always mean people are going to get married or live in the same house or whatever the case may be.
Right.
What that looks like for them.
Exactly. It may work for them, but yeah. It's not a one way. Yeah. So true.
And you stay over there and I'll stay over here, but I love you though.
You know what? So I was just going to say, long distance relationships are thriving, like really. And people are really, they are enjoying those type of relationships.
So Rainie, thank you so much. We went a couple minutes after, but there were a couple things I definitely wanted to make sure that I mentioned it. And we just tapped into it just a little bit, only scratched the surface of what's really inside of the love habit. Thank you again for writing this book. I know it won't be out for another couple of weeks, but people, please go and pre-order and be prepared to sit down and kind of work through it and ask questions and of yourself, perhaps the people that are in your relationship with, something that you could share with them as well. But are there any particular places or spaces that you're going to be as the book is being released that folks can go and like meet you in person or get signed copies, or where can we
Yeah, so I will have a book signing in St. Louis, and that is going to be on September 7th. The book releases on September 10th, so you can join me, connect with me at RainieHoward.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Sign up for my email list at RainieHoward.com. I would love to connect with you and share more about what we have going on, but yeah, thank you so much for having me, Marcie. This was great. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, it was good. I enjoyed it. So happy to have met you in person. And, always tell my guests, if, you're here today, but you're always welcome to come back with other things, other books that you put out, or, something you just really want to share with the world. I'm always willing to, have you come back and, continue the conversation, because there's so much we could talk about just in this book alone. And I know that this is just one piece of the things that you do. So I definitely would love to. And ongoing.
I would love to come back. Yes, I would love that.
Yes, so we can dive into some of that other stuff.
We can do that.
Right, because I know especially, the whole thing of, self-care. Some things we hear a lot, we hear the words, but to really be able to hone in on what that really means and what that really looks like, and how do we develop those habits. And like I mentioned, you talk about your husband, you all have your separate habits, and then you have the ones that you come to and do them
Yes.
together. So all that sort of stuff is just really important for sustaining all different types of relationships, but when you're
Yes.
talking romance and all of that, or familial, it's important that people are able to really support one another in those ways. So I love it, and I love what
Yeah.
you're doing. So yes.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna let you go get some water, and I'm gonna announce
Okay.
next week's book, but I will see you in just a second. So don't hang up yet, Miss Rainie.
Okay. Okay.
All righty then. That was wonderful. I loved having Rainie here. I'm glad that I got an opportunity to read the book in advance, and I definitely would suggest that if you want to know how to, really start with yourself, and develop the best loving relationship that you can have with yourself, for yourself, and expand that out. This book, The Love Habit, is really going to help you begin to really think about that. And one that we didn't talk about in terms of, relationships, be what you want, so to speak. And she talks about that. If you want that person that has these great qualities, make sure that you're coming with the same types of qualities as well. So I see she's in the background shaking her head. Like, yes. So she talks about that as well. So I am really excited. Next week's guest, actually, it's going to be pre-recorded because she's busy, but I am really excited for anyone who has ever listened to the Therapy for Black Girls podcast, which is hosted by Dr. Joy Harden Bradford. She will actually be the guest next week. It will be pre-recorded, but you'll still be able to chime in and see the things that we talked about, ask questions, and I'll make sure she sees them and come back to answer them and all that. But we'll be talking about her book. The light's a little off, but it's Sisterhood Heals. So next week we'll be talking about that, which is kind of a continuation of how we heal and become the best people that we could be. But in this particular instance, it's talking about how we do it as sisters in community. So please tune in next week for Dr. Joy as we talk about Sisterhood Heals. And so until the next time I see you, please continue to take great care of yourselves and live well. See you real soon. Bye-bye.